time for Voice of Indie. Your hosts today are Beem Weeks, author, producer, and marketing monster for independent multimedia publisher Fresh Ink Group, and Stephen Gies, author, producer, composer, and publisher for Fresh Ink Group.
Good evening and welcome to another fantastic Wednesday evening. Welcome to the Voice of Indie podcast. I am your host, Beem Weeks, and this is episode number 85. And with me is my co-host, Stephen Gies. How you doing tonight, Stephen?
I'm doing fairly well. I just pushed off on my left hand when I got up off the chair and should not have pushed off on that hand. So if you hear me squawk and whimper during the show, that's what that's about. But otherwise, I went this weekend to Nashville and saw Dream Theater, a band I had never seen before but have wanted to for a long time. So that was a big treat. And I just bought tickets for Britt Floyd coming to Huntsville, Alabama, hoping that I can recover from my surgery quick enough to be there. But this is the guy who went and saw Genesis in November with 12 fractures in his hands, less than 24 hours old. So I'm highly confident I can make that happen. We did an update on There Must Be Something in the Water by Abigail Hughini this week. She added another person to it, so we added some more pages, more pictures, more descriptions, another quote and stuff like that. So we've expanded the book. Those of you who already have the book, you should be aware that if you have most ebook editions, Kindles, Nooks, things like that, there are simple procedures where you can go into your settings and tell it if a new version of this book comes out, update my copy. And most people don't seem to know that. So if you've got There Must Be Something in the Water ebook and you want the updated version, get in there and change that, and you can get that for free. Keep that in mind for all your stuff. It is not uncommon for Fresh Ink Group books to wind up being updated, some months down the line after another error popped up or something else changed or something like that. So those of you who have ebooks, keep them up to date.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to say thank you to all of those who wished me a happy birthday last Sunday. Appreciate that. Jenny Wong, her website is now up, and you can go over there and get autographed copies of her hardcover for Girl Wears Those Shoes. And she, like I said, they're autographed. She signs them, and just go over there and click on the proper buttons. And also I want to add here, regular Voice of Indie listener Verwayne Greenhow, he has said that his Chapter 15 of his Bella murder story is now available. Jim has gone to the city to patrol the streets where he finds the young lady of the evening who has mastered the concept of safety and things go badly for her. Who hasn't mastered the concept of safety and things go. Now, he says explicit content. He said he doesn't cuss and swear in his real life, but this is a fictional story based on a true story, I believe is how that goes. I know it's based on some truth, so it's reality, and you're going to get some of those words in there, so if you don't like those kind of words, just be forewarned. So there you go. And if you would like to join tonight's conversation, as I see we've already got a caller on hold, so keep them coming. But if you want to be involved in the show tonight, questions or comments, here's how you do that.
Call 516-453-9902 right now and join us on air, or tweet us with the hashtag Fresh Ink Group in the body, and we'll read your comment or question live. That's 516-453-9902 or hashtag Fresh Ink Group. Stay on top of these podcasts and all things Fresh Ink Group with our weekly digital newsletter, new releases, videos, stories, excerpts, interviews, and more. Sign up now on the homepage of FreshInkGroup.com and be the one who knows what's what.
What?
So, we've got another book that's out there in pre-sale right now for a late March release by Robert G. Williscroft, The Ort Federation, To the Stars, the second Ort Chronicle. It's the second tale in the sci-fi Ort Chronicle series that started with the highly renowned, well-respected, highly reviewed, and well-liked Icicle, which is the first Ort Chronicle. Icicle, a Tensor Matrix, the first Ort Chronicle. We're seeing it out there in pre-sale in pretty much all the ebook formats and all the retailers, and just starting to see the print editions pop up. So if it's a print one that you want, and we hope that you do want a print edition. Give it another day or two, but they're out there populating now. Go look for Robert G. Willis Croft. Check out all of his other series and books as well. A lot of good stuff.
Yeah, and Patricia A. Guthrie's Eerie Charms of the Short Story, Fantasy, Mystery, and Horror. That is currently, all ebooks are now available. So wherever you get your ebooks, get over there and grab a copy. This is an excellent short story collection. And we're still watching for the print copies. So keep your ear to this show and to Twitter and to the newsletter. And we'll let you know when those are available. And also Stacy Troilo. She's got a new book out. It's called Between the Vines. It is part of her Keystone Couples series. And author C.S. Boyack has another new one in his The Hat Books series. This is the Hat Book number 5, and it's called Good Liniment. And I'm reading the first Hat book, and I'm almost done with it, and it's a blast. It's a unique, original type of story, and I'm having fun with that. So get out there and grab those books while you can.
Mm.
If you miss a show, find us in the archive in the Fresh Ink Group channel on YouTube, on Spotify, or under the podcast tab at freshinkgroup.com, beamweeks.com, and stephengs.com. On YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe.
All right.
Check out scores of Fresh Ink Group book trailers in the Fresh Ink Group channel on YouTube. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and spread the word.
We got a couple more. Yeah, we got a couple more new books coming out in the next few weeks. I'll tell you about one. Let Beem tell you about one. This one is from the guy who owns the Red Mountain Driving Academy in Birmingham, Alabama, and he's written a book that trains driving instructors on how to get certified as driving instructors in all across the country, because every state has different standards. A couple of states basically have no standards, unfortunately, but some states you have to have extensive training, certifications, pass tests, and things like that in order to be a certified driving instructor. So he wrote a book on training driving instructors on how to, first of all, do the job and do it well, but then to get certified and make a practice of it. And when he brought that to us, I said, well, what about a version for parents? Or any adults who have teenagers or young adults who are interested in learning to improve their driving skills. And we kind of mulled it over for a bit, and I went over and showed him that there was one book on Amazon for parents on teaching your teenagers to drive that had 80,000 reviews. Now, That means they sold at least 80,000 copies of that thing.
Yeah.
And when I pointed that out to him, all of a sudden, man, it was a real good idea to do 2 versions of that book, one for parents and one for instructors. So we're working on both of those. It looks like we'll have the instructor one out sometime in the next 2 weeks or so. And we have booked Kenneth Lindquist, that author, to be a guest on our podcast in April. So we're looking forward to that. And what's the other one, Beem?
It's about food trucks. Who doesn't like food trucks? Stroll up there and grab yourself a taco or something. We got a book called How to Start and Run a Food Truck Business in Florida, and that is in the proof stages right now, and that'll be out in not too distant future, so keep an ear out for that one as well.
Now, if you're interested in starting a food truck business, keep in mind that they specified Florida in the title of this one because they put specific procedures, addresses, forms, and things like that in there to show you. But 90% of this info is how to do it anywhere. How to develop a floor plan, how to develop your menu, how to pick and choose the various things, and how to make the whole thing work. So it doesn't have to be Florida. And for that matter, we're looking at maybe turning this into a series where we add California next and a couple of the other big states and kind of work our way across the country and have a whole series, which I think would be a pretty good idea too. So how to start and run a food truck business in Florida, but really means almost anywhere.
Anywhere.
Check out freshinkgroup.com for everything publishing. Meet scores of authors. Discover hundreds of great books, plus audiobooks, podcasts, videos, trailers, free stories, free manuscript evaluations, and more. That's freshinkgroup.com.
All right.
I like his voice. That's professional voice actor Ron Darling. He did my Been There Noted That trailer, and that's one of my favorite trailers. All right, we've got a guest this week. Surprise, surprise. He goes by the author name D. Ike, I-K-E, Horst, H-O-R-S-T. We're going to call him David while we're talking to him tonight. He's a contemporary Renaissance man and storyteller out of a small town in eastern Missouri. He is most at home in the wilderness with his farm dog at his side, but he also relishes the opportunity to sit with pen and paper and build worlds. I saw words when I looked at that. To build worlds. Before pursuing authorship, he did work as a wildland firefighter, trail builder, timber harvester, compounding pharmacy technician, and emergency management team member. One of these guys that can't settle into a job, huh? In his off time, Horst is passionate about weightlifting, role-playing, backcountry hiking, and asking deep theological questions. Welcome to the show, David.
Welcome, Dave.
Hey, Beem. Hey, Steven. How you doing?
Hey.
Doing well. Good to have you here.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to be here.
So let's start off by explaining the D. Ike Horst.
Yeah. So D. Ike Horst is a pseudonym. It's a pen name. My real name is David Ike Horst. Now, my last name is a very long Polish name. It has 7 consonants and only 2 vowels. The former include a J, a C, a Z, and a T. If anyone listening plays Scrabble, then you know those letters don't go together.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started taking writing seriously, I had to think about what it would mean if I used my actual last name. I realized if someone was referred to my work, it would be hard for them to transition from hearing my name out loud to typing my name accurately in a search bar. So I broke my name down phonetically, Ike Horst, and decided to use that as a pseudonym.
All right.
Well, it works. It
that
works.
Makes
and
sense.
it's easy
Yeah.
it's easy to remember and look for H-O-R-S-T, which is really where you need to start in order to get to you on places like Amazon. So that's cool. So you like reader and writer podcasts, I understand. You've guested on a few. You make it a point to listen to them, check them out.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of reader-writer podcasts. I like Writing Excuses with Brandon Sanderson and Mary Robinette Kowal. The latter, who I used her name as one of my characters. We can get into that later. I also like Broken Jars podcast. They do some high fantasy stuff. And I've listened to a few others. So, yeah, I would consider myself a fan.
Yeah, that's kind of how you found our podcast, isn't it? Scrolling through BTR?
No, absolutely. Yep, I was scrolling through Blog Talk Radio, and I found you guys.
Cool.
See that, author listeners and musician listeners? Pays off.
So you're a Missouri writer. I mean, were you born in Missouri and spent all your time there, or have you lived other places?
So originally, I'm actually from California. I grew up in Santa Rosa, which was actually once home of Frank Herbert, who wrote the Dune series. He used to work at the Press Democrat. And and Santa Rosa is also like 15 minutes from where Jack London settled down. So a lot of history of good storytellers coming out of that area. I just kind of ended up in Missouri during my adult life. And I'm glad to be here.
Glad why? What's so great?
Well, I found that as I've grown up, I've gone to smaller and smaller communities just trying to get away from things. I guess at heart, I'm just a small town guy who likes to be away from things. And, I found that here in Pacific, Missouri. I came here originally to do conservation work and also some disaster relief. And I just ended up staying here. I have some really good friends who are also, artists, and some of them are, aspiring writers. The person who actually did my cover art lives in Pacific as well.
And what's his name?
So his name is Eric Comer. I used to live on his farm, actually, and I consider him like my artistic, partner in crime. I don't know if he's listening in, but hopefully he is. You can find his work at and then some 11 on Instagram, and definitely check it out. If any writers are out there and they're just looking for a good illustrator,
and
you might consider
Culmer?
him.
You said Culmer's, like Culmer.
Kommer.
It's a good thing I asked. I wouldn't have been close.
Yeah.
All right. We have a caller, so how about we take the call right now?
Woohoo!
All right. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. You are on the air. What is your name and where are you calling from? Hello, caller. Area code 636. Going once. He dropped.
Oh.
Hung up.
Bummer.
All right. Well,
we need to start rolling some commercials here. So our first set will be books by Robert G. Williscroft. And I want to remind everybody, these are book trailers that you can go over on YouTube and actually watch. You don't just have to listen to them on this show. They are cool to look at.
In the meantime, use your imagination.
Now, introducing Book 1 in the new series by master sci-fi storyteller Robert G. Williscroft, Icicle, a Tensor Matrix, the first Oort Chronicle. Dying of prostate cancer, wealthy entrepreneur Braxton Thorpe is frozen in hopes of someday being revived and cured. That's when he discovers a threat to the entire solar system. But he has a problem. He's dead. He awakens to find himself uploaded into an electronic matrix. Exploring beyond the matrix and the larger global net, he discovers the Oort, a distributed electronic entity older than humanity, with an unnerving secret. Aliens wiped out nearly all life on Earth once, and they are coming back to do it again. The mathematical entity that is Thorpe has to find a way to convince humans of this threat, and in time to do something about it. But how? And what? Will Thorpe's carefully assembled team have any shot at saving the world? Will the Russians and Chinese help or betray? And who uploaded the cat? Icicle, a Tensor Matrix, the first Oort Chronicle, is available worldwide in hardcover, softcover, all ebook formats, and now as an audiobook narrated by Trenton Bennett, including music and sound effects. Icicle, a Tensor Matrix, is proudly published by Fresh Ink Group. Now, from science fiction master Robert G. Williscroft, the Oort Federation, to the stars, the second Oort Chronicle. As the Oort Federation becomes a major force in the solar system, Braxton Thorpe passes the Federation chairmanship to former U.S. President John Butler. Thorpe's group offers humanity virtual immortality, but Isidore Orlov and his Udachny enterprises oppose their every move. While Thorpe's group terraforms Mars for more living space, the Mars Reds prove formidable as resistors. If the Asterian Starship fighter pilots are released, will they align with Phoenix or Udachny? And who will develop the right FTL technology? In this tense space adventure, Thorpe, his team, and Max the Tabby Cat travel to Proxima Centauri and beyond to the Astor system, 84 light years distant. Will Thorpe bring together humans and Asterians in their quest for intergalactic travel? Will long life prove more than mere humans can handle? Grab Icicle, a Tensor Matrix, the first Oort Chronicle, and continue the journey with the Oort Federation to the stars. Proudly published in all print, digital, and sensory-enhanced audiobooks by Fresh Ink Group.
Both of those are excellent books, very much in the traditional true science fiction style. Great characters, great storylines, good sci-fi, good science, all that kind of stuff. If you were like a fan of Robert A. Heinlein back in the day or even today, that's the kind of stories that you want to go check out. A couple of quick notes here. The narrator in both of those commercials was Trenton Bennett. He's an ACX voiceover artist, I guess you would call him, who records audiobooks for people. He was a guest on this podcast some time back, and it's a very popular episode in the archives. So if you want to learn a lot about producing audiobooks and what the steps are in the process, how to work with voice artists and whatnot, check out that episode in our archives and keep his name in mind, Trenton Bennett. Trenton Bennett is also a guest over on GSWriter, GSWriter.com, which is a site I put together a long time ago that we have experts in writing and producing and things like that, offering advice and opportunities to connect with people. So Trenton Bennett is also on GSWriter. Of course, both of those commercials, you can go watch the videos over on YouTube and like, subscribe, share, and, donate money to your favorite cause.
All right, we do have another caller, so we're going to go and take this call, see if this works this time. Hello, caller. You are on the air. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, my name's Nikki. I'm calling from New Jersey.
Nikki.
Hello, Nikki
Hi.
from New Jersey. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Thank you.
You have a question or a comment for David?
I do. I've known David for a couple of years. We actually served in the Domestic Peace Corps together, so part of his disaster relief and a couple different projects.
I'll bet you've got some stories, too.
Just a few. But he's really talented, really powerful presence, and just he's motivated by so many things. And when he gets onto something, he's relentless. But I really just wanted to ask a question so that the rest of the world can hear. I guess how, David, did you go from disaster relief, national service, Job Corps? How did you go from all of that to kind of where you are now into writing? And I know half the answer, but I think other people deserve to hear how too.
Yeah. So it's been a journey, as you know. For the listeners out there, I actually work for the Missouri Department of Natural Resources as my day job. But I've always loved writing, and I've always been an avid reader ever since I was a little kid. I've always had trouble sleeping, so I would read books to help me go to sleep. And it just kind of progressed into this obsession with world building, with, creative storytelling. And, while I've been, working all these other jobs, being, timber harvesting, trail building, disaster relief, pharmacy, I've always loved writing above all else. So, I really just want to make that my sole pursuit eventually, which is why I'm starting to pursue authorship. I feel like I have so many stories to tell, and I just can't wait to get that out there. So really, to answer your question, Nikki, it all started way before I ever did any of the national service or, conservation work. My love of writing has been since I was a little kid, and I just happened to find myself in a situation where I can pursue it.
So exciting. My mom says she's proud of you, too. I told her.
Well, that's the first mom endorsement on this podcast. How in the
There you go.
Congratulations, David.
There you go.
I did. I'm like, Mom, I have to talk to David tonight on the podcast. She's like, oh, my gosh, I'm so excited for him. So,
yeah.
But, yeah, thanks for having me. I'm super excited for you, David.
Yeah.
Thanks for calling in, Ricky.
Yeah, thanks.
And we would like to invite you to check out the podcast every week and call in and meet some other authors as well.
Yeah,
definitely. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nikki.
Thanks, Nikki.
So, Beem, you want to roll another commercial here and then get on to talking about Ozark writers?
Sure. Let's do this one right here.
You got Legacy and Girl.
I got it.
Elena Dacani inherits her family's castle in Romania, a land dipped in myths, folklore, and the legendary Walking Dead. The local proverb serves as a warning. Do not speak badly of the devil, because you cannot know to whom you will belong. When she's attacked by an international assassin, only her deceased husband and her ex-boyfriend's live presence can protect her on her journey to the mountainous region of Transylvania. But that's not the only problem troubling Elena. Who is that boy invading her dreams? And what really happened to a priceless gem-crusted silver cross buried by an earthquake in the 15th century? Who's stalking Elena? Who wants her dead and why? Legacy of Danger by Patricia A. Guthrie is a paranormal romantic thriller with a deep mystery and plenty of suspense. It'll haunt you in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats worldwide. Legacy of Danger by Patricia A. Guthrie is proudly published by Fresh Ink Group.
Proudly.
Aspiring young Chinese immigrant, GGO, survives by working as a stripper, but she strives for true success in the U.S. real estate industry. Navigating this highly competitive business is tough, especially when her only support comes from the deeply flawed men she loves and her old cohorts from the strip club. Issues of betrayal and trust, loyalty and commitment complicate her goals, even as one lesbian friend adds new dimensions to her understanding of love versus desire. Then the market crashes and financial turmoil threatens to rob GGO of all she has achieved. Can she find new ways to chase her dreams and still manage to keep her clothes on? Or might she find a better reason to take them off? Girl Wears Those Shoes is a tale of love and power. The story of one woman who wants to make the world her own, if only she can figure out how. Proudly published by Fresh Ink Group, Girl Wears Those Shoes is available in all hardcover, softcover, and all digital formats worldwide.
All right. Now, Legacy of Danger, you just heard the trailer, and we strongly encourage you to go over to YouTube and check that out as well. We also announced tonight that Patricia Guthrie's new book, Eerie Charms of the Short Story, is out. We have not made the commercial for that yet. We're trying to get to that sometime in the next few weeks. I'm having major surgery in 2 weeks, so my lists are kind of turning into before surgery and after surgery. And we're working on a couple of other projects right ahead of that. But the second commercial, Girl Wears Those Shoes, the voiceover that you heard in that commercial was actress Vivian Ahn, very well-regarded actress out of Los Angeles. And like in the case of Trenton Bennett narrating the commercials for Robert Williscroft's books, Trenton Bennett is the narrator of his audiobooks. And Vivian Ahn is the narrator of the Girl Wears Those Shoes audiobook. And Beem, what's the status of those two audiobooks?
Well, we are hard at work on the Williscroft audiobook, and that's coming along at a good pace. And I'm up to date on the Girl Wears Those Shoes files. I'm still waiting for the next batch from Vivian, but they sound good.
So making steady progress, and both of these probably maybe a few weeks really out. Good. Yeah. Well, so we're looking forward to those.
Yeah, I think the Williscroft one will probably be finished first because Vivian works at a different pace. So.
Yeah, and Trenton has already delivered all the files. So.
All the files.
Jump. Yeah. So, do you want to ask him about one of our favorite writers?
Yeah, Daniel Woodrow. He's from the Ozarks. He's from Missouri. We talked to you about him, and yet you kind of didn't know who he was. Have you had a chance to check him out, David?
You guys do give me a hard time about not knowing who he was.
Well, we just want an excuse to mention him, because anytime we introduce somebody from Missouri, hey, have you ever met Daniel Woodrow? He's one of our favorites.
Yeah, he's a fantastic writer.
You are going to want to check him out, David. He's great, and he's written some great books. A couple of his books have been made into movies, including Winter's Bone and Tomato Red. Winter's Bone won a bunch of Academy Awards. He's just a great writer. We love his style, and we're big fans. So, Daniel Woodrow, Ozark writer, and tonight we've got D. Ike Horst, another writer from Missouri.
All right.
It's funny. I actually have I had my notes from our pre-meeting right here, and in big letters I wrote Daniel Woodrow, and so I probably should have done a better job of looking him up.
So what kind of kid were you, David? Were you I mean, you've talked a little bit about how you got inspired into the reading and writing when you were younger. What about other stuff? I mean, were you a frog catcher, a crayfish catcher type, or you like going fishing, hiking out in the woods? You like, obviously, you like being away from the crowds.
Yeah. So as a kid, I actually bounced around a lot. I actually went to 4 different high schools. Fun fact. So I was.
Wow.
I was always kind of in transition. I wouldn't say I was a troublemaker, but I was certainly reserved. I think a lot of writers are. We're thoughtful by nature, and my moving around a lot as a kid kind of led into a sort of nomad lifestyle when I became older. That's why I ended up in Idaho, Utah, Mississippi for, national service, and now here in Missouri. And it's just now that I'm starting to settle down roots. So I guess you could say, I was kind of all over the place. I was quiet, but I was bouncing around a lot. So it was a lot to deal with as a kid.
So, now that you're in Missouri, do you ever get that urge to get out there and try something, another new place, or are you settled and happy where you're at?
Well, I did a pretty good job of exhausting myself in my early years.
Okay.
But no, now that I've kind of found a niche here in small town Missouri, I think I'm going to stay around for a little bit. It's actually funny. One of my coworkers at the Department of Natural Resources, she told me that I'm not country, but I'm wilderness.
I like that.
Yeah. I think that was during a day where I walked out of the woods with a Pulaski axe in my hand, nosebleed, and drenched in sweat. So I get where she was coming from.
Yeah. Well, Beem, you want to try to catch up a little bit on Twitter? We got Verwayne Greenho right before the show said 6 minutes until the Voice of Indie podcast is live. I'm there, but there's always room for more, and we can't agree with you more, Verwayne.
Yeah, Marlena Smith, she says, tune into the Voice of Indie podcast. That was just before the show. Now, Robert Williscroft, upon listening to Stephen's reading of David's bio, he says, I'm curious what you might consider a deep theological question.
There you go. Okay. He also asked, Missouri is great because it's not California.
Agreed.
Yeah.
No, I love California. Obviously, I have some deep emotional connections there. I was raised there, but it just wasn't my speed. And sometimes it's okay to take a step back and say, I love this thing, but I want something else. And that was the case with Missouri and California. Now, as it regards deep theological questions, I actually go to a Christian school, Liberty University, and so I've done quite a few theological courses. One thing that I read up on a lot was divine command theory, and if you're not familiar with that, it is whether or not an all-powerful God is bound to morality outside of himself, and because you can't really be omnipotent and all-powerful and all-knowing and be bound to outside morality. You kind of have to, if you're all-knowing and the center of all things, you kind of have to create your own good, create your own bad, and you're the definition of that, versus there being an innate good and innate bad that was defined before you were in power, so to speak. So that's a rough definition of divine command theory. I kind of butchered it, but that's okay. And that's a type of deep theological question that I would consider when I wrote my bio.
Oh, okay. We've got other comments on Twitter. Marlena Smith says, I can appreciate the small town life. There's nothing quite like it. Yeah, she's in Cullman, Alabama, which is very cool.
Town.
Cool. Yeah, it is, and it's a very cool place with some good people. You want to pick up Helen Burrell's comment?
Sure. Dr. Helen Burrell, she says, D. Ike Horst. A modest talent encourages others to use their own creativities. When I tell people I'm a writer, they often say, oh, I could never do that. Reality. Big ideas come easy, so I encourage them to conjure a big twist on the mundane. Thank you, Helen, as always.
Yeah, thank you, Helen.
All right.
So, Beem, you want to run a couple of commercials?
Sure.
I'm in St. Louis, where the windmills turn, behind the fence where lifers yearn. I see tempers flare and souls burn. Walk the line, or it's your turn. It's funny how little things give us the greatest ambition, the differing shades of color throughout the day's sky, the slight smile and familiar aroma of a lover, the laugh of a child. In From Chaos with Love, Poetry from the Inside Out, this astounding collection of 220 original poems, Joshua Stutzman shares his vision of how we live day to day, often unaware of how many ways we affect those around us, family, friends, even strangers. In that, he finds a unique and poignant beauty, an exquisite appreciation for the wonder he hopes to share with his poetry. Proudly published by Fresh Ink Group, From Chaos with Love is the first collection from a man describing what we all know but find too easy to forget. From Chaos with Love, Poetry from the Inside Out by Joshua Stutzman.
Every person has a private life and a secret self. This is true of those we know and people we only know because they are famous. Discover fascinating, intimate, clever, witty, poignant, insightful tales from a diverse roster of notable women who dare reveal both the unknown and the previously undisclosed. But these are not gossipy tales. No, they are personal, anecdotal, always meaningful stories for quiet reading, sharing aloud, even performing from the stage. Compiled by Detroit playwright Jay Ajluni, Whoopi Likes Her Bacon Crispy, 65 fascinating excerpts from the memoirs of famous and infamous women is illustrated with whimsical portraits that capture these remarkable celebrities at their best. Choose your own from laminate hardcover, softback, and digital editions, all proudly published by Fresh Ink Group. Come away with a richer appreciation of these talented women and smile for permitting them to entertain you in unexpected and delightful ways.
Cool. Couple of
that is
notes
a
on
really
those.
cool book there.
Yeah. That's one of our bestsellers in print, and it's one of the few where the hardcover is actually outselling the softcover. That's very unusual because the hardcover on that book is $30-something, if I remember right. Likewise, the Hello Chattanooga book, the hardcover, 700-something color pages at $45 is outselling the softcover edition of it because people want those nice keepsake editions. That's something you should keep in mind. One other thing I want to mention, too, is that one of our favorite narrators, Bailey, is the one who did that Whoopi commercial. Now, if any of you are looking to make your own trailers or get an audiobook produced yourself or anything like that, and you'd rather do things your way than work with us, contact us. We don't mind sharing names and referring some of these people because we found some good people who are affordable and do good quality work. Now, the first commercial you heard was me. I'm not going to endorse that guy, but the rest of them are, the rest of them are professionals. So let's share the wealth, and any of you that want to know who those people are, don't be bashful.
All right. So, David. Now, you had mentioned when Nikki had called, a little bit about your reading and all that. In childhood, were you an early reader and writing even back then in childhood, or is this something that came along, later on?
No, I was definitely an early reader. I think I was reading before kindergarten and, chapter books throughout elementary school. I was actually, in middle school, I was that kid that was trying to write Vietnam War novels despite not knowing a lot about it, and also epic fantasy. So it's been a lifelong thing.
Cool.
You mentioned Liberty University. Have you gone to school anywhere else?
Yeah, actually. So I went to the College of Western Idaho when I was 17. Yeah, I actually didn't finish high school just because I was bouncing around so much. So I just decided, hey, I'll get my GED and go to college early. So I went to the College of Western Idaho when I was 17, 18, and I just wasn't mature enough yet for college, didn't know what I wanted. So, then I did my, thing out in the world, traveled a lot, exercised my wanderlust, and I ended up settling in Missouri and doing online school with Liberty. And it's been great. I'm about to graduate this year.
Cool. Now, you're not doing full-time writing. You have a day job?
Yeah. Like I said, like I previously said, I'm on with the Department of Natural Resources with Missouri State Parks. So I do a lot of trail maintenance, groundskeeping, but I'll also do invasive species removal, controlled burns, just really anything in the woods to preserve the state's natural resources.
Yeah, now I recall that you did mention that. Let's move on to your writing process, okay? So do you have like a certain time of the day do you write? A certain place that you write? Do you have like word counts that you expect to reach each day? Or how do you go about doing this?
Okay. So I actually write at my kitchen table. And it's funny because I have a nice office chair and an office desk, but I just tend to write better when I'm sitting in a hard wooden chair. That's actually where I'm at right now, at my kitchen table, hard wooden chair, mess in front of me. That's okay. And when that doesn't work, I like to actually take a step outside on the patio or in the garage, somewhere exposed to the elements, without it being painfully cold or hot. Now, in terms of when, morning, afternoon, nighttime is usually for settling down. My brain is most active during the day, so that's when I want to write. And I write in sprints. I write in 50-minute sprints with 10 minutes off. So on days that I'm writing, I'm doing 50 minutes on, 10 minutes off, and it's really easy to get 1,200, 1,500 words a day by doing this. So, yeah, that's typically my process.
That's an interesting technique there, the sprint rate.
Yeah.
Now, are you a pantser or do you outline?
So, Beem, Stephen, I've been excited about this because I know you're both outliners.
Big time.
Get out your hat. Geez.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a G's Writer how-to ebook on Amazon about how to outline, if I remember right. I think we published that one.
Yeah.
So
you're
unlike you fellows, I am a pantser. And for those of you listening who don't know what a pantser is, pantsing is when a writer creates a book without a formal outline. It's a more intuitive take on the craft of storytelling from where I'm sitting.
From the phrase, writing from the seat of your pants.
Correct. Now, that's not to say that, a pantser such as myself doesn't know what what I'm going to write or in what order, but I just never work with a formal outline.
So you basically know where you want to begin and where you want to end.
Correct. And just kind of intuit through different scenes, chapters. Now, for all the writers out there, I want to encourage you all to at least try to outline. I really think you can't discover whether you're truly an outliner or a pantser without developing an outline. Kind of the way I went about it was I went through this heavy outline phase, and it would just exhaust me. I wouldn't have any. I guess you could say, passion for the story after I wrote a really in-depth outline. And one thing that you have to consider is that when you're a pantser and not someone who outlines, you're going to get through your word count, but on the back end, you're going to do more work. Now, I would rather do lots of drafting than outlining because I already have 40,000 words down before I start feeling fatigue. But if I outline beforehand, I feel fatigued before I even get into my story. And that just wasn't working for me. So for all the writers out there, try the outline first. If it doesn't work out for you, if you feel fatigue, then maybe you're a pantser. But if it really, gets you motivated for your story, gets you passionate by doing this outline, then you're probably good you're probably good to do outlines.
Yeah, one other thing in there too is even if you try outlining and it's not working for you, sometimes you can learn to be a better outliner too. I've had people tell me outlining does not work for them, and I just sit with them for 15 minutes and show them some of the tricks and techniques about how to break it down symbolically and move pieces around and stuff like that. And they're like, well, that's not how I was doing it. So then they try it and wind up loving it. You can't be all of one thing. You can't be a pantser who has no idea where he's going to go. Likewise, you can't be a firm outliner but not leave yourself room to play. If I'm on scene 74 and I know there's 12 things I have to accomplish in this scene according to my outline, that frees me up to relax and play and put some other stuff in there that's the seat of the pants. So, and I've had a lot of people also tell me, well, I'm just a pantser. I never use an outline. But then they can sit there and the next 45 minutes recite the outline for what they're writing. They're just outlining in their head. They're just not putting it down on paper, but they're still doing the process. So there is no one or the other, I've found. And a lot of times, sometimes you just need to learn a little bit about some of the techniques to do it. So I'm going to encourage people like David to try outlining and see what you can make work for you.
Yeah. Well said. Well said.
Yeah.
Now, where do you get your story ideas from, David? And how do you develop them once you get them?
And I'll bet you got a bunch.
Always. I really believe that ideas are just big ideas will come with life experience and time on task. Writers, we're kind of like blenders. We take our observations of the real world, throw that in the blender, then we take some cool stuff that we've read or watched, throw that in, and we kind of mix it all up, and it comes out as something unique. So, for instance, Death the Pharmacist, I used to work in pharmacy, and I wanted to take something mundane, everyday job, working in pharmacy, and I wanted to add a fantasy twist to it and make it existential. And after that, it was pretty easy. The ideas just kind of roll together. It's just time on task and blending ideas and experiences.
It's fun when you find the story, isn't it?
When it's
kind of laid out in front of you and you can see it, and it's like, yeah, that's cool.
Now, do you?
I agree.
Go ahead, Stephen.
I was going to say this is a good segue to talk about your first book, which is out now, Death the Pharmacist. But we need to get a couple more commercials in here, and we don't have any more callers right now, Beem.
No, but we do have a couple of comments on Twitter. I will read these real quick because they pertain to what he just said. Robert Williscroft said, my stories are so intricate that it would be impossible to write them without a detailed outline, and I agree. Fantastic sci-fi writing and the military submarine stuff. He's got everything down, so it wouldn't make sense writing it by the seat of his pants. And Verwayne says, Verwayne Greenhow, he says, I do keep a list of details trailing before the last of my manuscript, but it isn't detailed. Well, it's kind of probably like a bare bones type of thing, I'm guessing, but it's, some form of outline.
And I'm seeing some that you skipped over, too. Robert Williscroft, I think I prefer Ayn Rand's thoughts on theology.
Okay. Well, there's a whole bunch of them.
And Verwayne Greenhoe, narrators for audio books with a pleasing voice and tone are hard to find. I agree, Verwayne. We go through a lot of people just looking for, a minute and a half trailer.
Yep.
And it's that you got to find that combination between good professional quality work and can afford to pay them, and that some of them are just way too expensive. He says, I currently have 5 of my audiobooks being revoiced right now. Before, I was too eager to get them done. Now I am more concerned about having them voiced right. God, I love that comment. Thanks, Verwayne. That's right on the money. You got to go for the quality. Always go for the quality, even if they have to squeeze hard in order to get that done. And then Verwayne also added, I am a big-time pantser. I can't do outlines. I was forced in high school and then college, but now I am a hardcore pantser. Yeah, those big outliner bullies used to pick on him, I can just imagine. I start with an idea, know where it will go, and then make a path to that ending. You want to pick up Marlena's next one?
Yeah, and Marlena, she's actually got a question for you, David. She says, have you found any writing inspiration in your experiences through life, having worked with disaster relief and conservation, and now at the national park?
Yeah, actually, some of the work that I'm currently working on have some conservation themes, particularly, fighting off invasive species. All of a sudden you think about all these invasive plants that are coming up. You can build a really cool world around it when it puts the whole world at stake. So definitely working with that in more of a fantasy aspect.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, Willis Croft added, my stories are so intricate that it would be impossible to write them without a detailed outline. I'm very familiar with his stories, and I understand that. You set something up in chapter 27 that has to happen. You got to plant the seeds in chapter 13 and 6 in order to have it ready. And unless you have a good outline, So, yeah, great comments on Twitter tonight. We appreciate that from everybody. And these next 2 commercials are self-serving. One's going to be for one of my books, and one's going to be for the co-host Beem Weeks' books. We figured we need to stick ours in there every now and then just to get some attention.
All right.
Frank relishes fast success and early retirement, but struggling to preserve his life's work thrusts him into a desperate battle to protect the people he cares about most. Beverly seeks a new beginning in Tarpon Springs until those she trusts steal control of her destiny, forcing a fight for her very survival. All 12-year-old Kevin wants is attention from the only man he respects. Yet murder and the wrenching indifference of a callous legal system toward one vulnerable child proves even friendship might never be enough. Riven by tragedy, consumed by grief, all 3 must confront the wondrous possibility that our indelible bonds may somehow transcend even death, that a cherished soul truly can find the way back. Only together might this improbable family dare embrace their own brand of unexpected love, that infinite potential to achieve more than any one person can alone. Through it all, they are teased by the mystery of those dancing lights, a million pinpoints in every imaginable color, swirling to form brilliant images of extraordinary lives. Dance of the Lights by Stephen Gies is proudly published by Fresh Ink Group.
All right, couple of quick notes on those. Dance of the Lights was my first novel.
I thought we were running 2 commercials.
That's right.
in a row.
All right. Let me make a quick note and then go ahead and run that next one. That was my first novel, and we waited until just this past few months to finally make a trailer for it, because we wanted to figure out how to make those dancing lights, form the words, and do those things, and it took us that long to do it. So go over to YouTube and check out the Dance of the Lights trailer. Now go ahead and play the Jazz Baby.
While all of Mississippi bakes in the scorching summer of 1925, sudden orphanhood wraps its icy embrace around Emily Ann Baby Teagarden, a pretty young teen. Taken in by an aunt bent on ridding herself of this unexpected burden, Baby Teagarden plots her escape using the only means at her disposal, a voice that brings church ladies to righteous tears and makes both angels and devils take notice. I'm going to New York City to sing jazz, she brags to anybody who'll listen. But the Big Apple, well, It's an awful long way from that dry patch of earth she's always called home. So when the smoky stages of New Orleans speakeasies give a whistle, offering all sorts of shortcuts, Emily Ann soon learns it's the whorehouses and opium dens that can sidetrack a girl and dim a spotlight. And knowing the wrong people can snuff it out. Jazz Baby just wants to sing, not fight to stay alive. Jazz Baby is available now in dust-jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook editions worldwide. Jazz Baby by Beem Weeks is proudly published by Fresh Ink Group.
Yeah, and there's a trailer for that as well. And this voiceover here, this commercial, is actually not from the trailer, so it's a different take on it on the trailer, which we did a while ago. So get over to the Fresh Ink Group YouTube channel and check it out. Now, we do have a phone call here, another caller. You guys want to take that?
Yeah.
Before we dive into David's book?
Go.
All right. Spinning. Come on. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. You are live on the air. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Is that us?
That's you.
Oh. It's Chelsea and Wendy Blanchard.
Hello, Chelsea and Wendy.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Do you have a question or
Chelsea.
comment?
Hey, Ann, how are you?
I'm very good.
Okay, so we finished reading the book today, and we loved it.
Okay.
Cool.
So creative.
And you're going to go post reviews on places like Amazon and give it 5 stars, right?
Yeah.
And Goodreads.
Yeah.
And Goodreads, yes.
And Goodreads. Okay. We're so fired. We haven't done that yet. So obviously, having been a pharmacy tech, I understand kind of a little bit of where maybe this stemmed from, but I'm really interested to know a little bit of the backstory of how that idea and how like personifying death into a humanistic kind of how that came to be. Like, are you just handing out meds one day and it comes to you and you're like, here, take your Prozac, and then it's like, oh my God, death could be a pharmacist who's handing out life.
So the idea behind Death the Pharmacist, it wasn't like a big light bulb. It kind of happened over time as I was working in pharmacy, and I developed the idea later on. I actually had to look back on my experience working in pharmacy to kind of pull on, what was there to create the bones of the story, so to speak. Death, he distributes life essence to mortals on the other side, and when they run out of refills on their prescription, he takes them in the back and he does what Death does. Now, I wouldn't want to compare that to anyone who actually works in pharmacy. Hopefully they're not taking anyone in the back and, dealing death to them, but the idea did stem.
They're dealing with
the idea did
insurance
stem from the experience.
It can feel like death. It can't feel like death if you don't have a refill on your prescription.
Yeah.
It can.
Okay.
So what else do you like about the book? Were there surprises or mystery about it or something that you found especially interesting?
It was really deep. I think that, we know David to be a deep thinker, so it's not surprising at the level of depth in 126 pages. But I think I did smile when I realized, one, that the doctor was a woman, and an African American woman at that. So that made me smile. And I just thought that it was, we just really, there were many times reading the book because I read it out loud to Wendy. And there were just a lot of times that we stopped and it thought about it and had to go back and read it and think, wow, that's really really deep. Thought it was a fascinating take on something that I think people fear. Never thought about it from Jeff's perspective, I guess. So it felt like it was also insightful in a perspective that nobody would ever think of.
A lot of finesse going into using death as a point of view as well. And that's some good writing.
Yeah. And starting out with the idea that he just kind of thinks like that we're all just, kind of just gray drones showing up in this line.
Mm-hmm.
And then going through somebody's life and having them highlight, these moments, because what else is life? It's a bunch of moments that you can reflect back on. So it was, and definitely something I feel like it was written in a way that not only was it like thought provoking and like it gave some perspective enlightenment, but also you could really see it in your mind's eye with what? Yeah, really descriptive, and you can really see it in your mind's eye and go through this like word journey that was playing like a picture in your head because it had that kind of depth and description.
Vivid imagery. I love it. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I've been telling people for decades that most of my books and stories are slipstream, even though I write in a variety of genres. And David is the first person I've heard tell me in many, many years that his book is slipstream. And I'm curious, how would you explain that, David? What is slipstream, and how would you explain that?
So slipstream is a term in the writing industry that describes something that is a fusion of like fantastic or genre elements. However, it also has the character-driven elements of literary fiction. So, for example, Death the Pharmacist, it is written with definitely a fantasy element to it. However, it's character-driven, and it has probably a little more description, vivid description than you would find in your traditional fantasy genre work.
I like that.
Yeah.
Does that sound right, Chelsea and Wendy?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I didn't even know I had no idea what that was. Didn't know it was a thing. But
good slipstream writers can write a story that seems real, but then has that element in it, that thing that just steps outside of reality a little bit, or makes you think, or uses a metaphor in place of what's real. Or there's just lots of ways to do slipstream, but it's always got that little bit that just steps outside. And I'm really looking for. I haven't read Death the Pharmacist yet. Unfortunately, I've got things that I have to edit first, but it's on my list, and I'm really looking forward to that. Especially another writer who claims to write slipstream, because I think that's a fun way to write.
Well, I've got it on my Kindle, so it's on my to be read list. So it's.
Well, we appreciate you ladies calling in, and we encourage you to keep checking out the podcast every week, and don't be afraid to call in even when it's not David.
Yeah.
But we also appreciate you endorsing David's book too. You're getting everybody excited about it, and we're looking forward to reading it.
Well, we're going to be donating our copies to our local library here.
Fantastic.
So that
there we go.
So that it can spread.
Yeah, remember to call the author on the inside cover and put his phone number there.
Hey, do that. Yeah, text for a good story. Text David.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, thanks a lot, Chelsea and Wendy.
So, David, you published this book with Atmosphere Press. They did your cover, editing, and all that kind of stuff, or did you work with other people? How did you get this thing from idea to publication?
So, I wrote the story. Originally, I wrote it for a novellas course in college. Like I said, I go to Liberty University, and I had the idea in the back of my head, and so I just wrote the novella, for the course, and I mean, I decided it was good enough, so I sent it out to beta readers. Shout out to Dan and Greg, my 2 beta readers. I really appreciate you guys taking a look at it before it was pretty. And then I started sending the manuscript out to agents, because the best way to get published with a traditional publishing house, you want to go through agents, because that expedites a lot of the work, from my understanding. However, a lot of agents and big publishing houses were telling me they didn't know how to market it, because the book is novella length and it's Slipstream. So how do you sell something that's that takes up half the physical shelf space as a literary novel? How do you sell something that big fantasy markets deem too literary and the big literary markets deem too fantasy-esque? So I was running into that wall, and that kind of led me to going with indie publishing. And from there, I found Atmosphere Press. They're a hybrid publishing model, which is kind of a fusion of traditional publishing and self-publishing. Any authors out there that want to take part in hybrid publishing, it is indie publishing, but you have to pay your own way. But unlike vanity presses, you're going to get things in return. You're going to get developmental editing, interior design, cover design, copy editing, proofreading, website development, access to a marketing team. If you pay your way, you should be getting 100% royalties. It's not just, here's an ISBN, thank you for your money, we're a vanity press. No, you get what you pay for, and they become partners in this publishing journey. So shout out to Atmosphere Press. You guys did right by me. Now, with that said, for those writers out there that aren't keen on doing, boots on the ground promotion of your work, maybe traditional publishing would be a better route, because in my mind, hybrid publishing, I have to do a lot of the groundwork. It's a lot like assisted self-publishing. I'm doing a lot of grassroots marketing, even though I have access to a marketing team. That's just kind of how it works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to interject 2 quick thoughts here. One is, the hybrid publishing, we started doing that 27 years ago when nobody was doing it. And we've had a lot of success with it ever since. Ours is very similar to Atmosphere's, except that we pretty much split the cost. We wind up spending about half of what it costs to put a book together, and then we pay 75% royalties. And so far, all of our authors have been happy with that. The one thing that you didn't mention that's probably the biggest thing you get out of working with somebody like Atmosphere or another hybrid is ownership. You don't have to sign away your copyrights. You own all of the work. It's work for hire. Yeah. You own that cover after you're done. You own that book layout, that book design. And at Fresh Ink Group, we purposely design it so that if you ever become unhappy with us, you can walk and take it all with you, and we will help you take it somewhere else if you want. We actually had one person do that many, many years ago, and we just redid the files for him and helped him go out and do his own thing. So there are different variations on that hybrid publishing thing. I mean, if you look at Fresh Ink Group's numbers, we charge way less than most of them out there because we kind of share that cost. Some charge a lot of money and a lot more than it's really worth. So do some shopping when you're out there hybrid publishing. And it sounds like Atmosphere Press is some good people, and I'm glad that you were able to find them. One other thought that I want to throw in there, too, is this bit about agents. I know a handful of agents, and I've had 2 agents myself over the years. One of my agents is now an extremely famous author. I see him on TV all the time. He puts a book out. He sells 5 million copies in hardcover before they even put out the hardcover. And the last time I talked to him, he said he got frustrated with agency because it got to the point to where with the traditional publishing houses, it had nothing to do with the quality of the work he was bringing him. They wanted to know, what's this guy's platform? How many followers does he have? Did he self-publish it and sell at least 10,000 copies before he came to you? And all that kind of stuff. So he really got sour on that whole agent traditional publishing business model because the hurdles you have to jump in order to even get access to those agents now are becoming formidable for people who haven't already gone out and proved that they don't even need the agent to do it themselves. So it's a real conundrum on that. But your experiences with that sound fairly typical, David. It's tough to find the right niche where they're looking for exactly what you have in the way that they want to market it. And it's almost like, kismet. You got to get all the stars lined up in the right place to do it. But good on Atmosphere Press. Do you have some advice for our authors out there listening, David?
I kind of want to reiterate something we talked about earlier. I want to start by saying that from where I'm coming from, writing isn't a talent-based industry. I don't believe that talent for writing has much weight when it comes to who's successful and who's not. I think anyone can write if they can sit down and put the work in. So what does the work entail? A lot of the pros, I'm sure you guys will know, they tell you it's all about putting in the work, putting in the word count, right? You need to read and write X amount of words before you grow competent as a storyteller. And that's just kind of the harsh truth of it. With that being said, it's a pretty even playing field when you consider it. We can all become writers because we all have, very valid life experiences. So if you can take that, turn it into a big story, all that's left is putting in the word count and developing that story, developing your voice as a writer, learning from the experience, networking. And so my advice is put the work in, and the big ideas will come.
Okay. Where can people find you on social media and blog, website, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram?
Yeah, absolutely. So if they want to go to my website, it is horstbooks.com. That is HORST books.com. And my Instagram and Facebook are both at Horst Books. So go ahead and check me out on those platforms. I also have a blurb on my website. You can read the first chapter, see if it interests you, and there's a bunch of links. So feel free to check it out, horstbooks.com.
All right. Yeah, and I just want to say I agree with you with the whole writing process. I mean, that you got to put in the work. You're not going to just sit down and write a story and then it's going to be this great thing and you go ahead and publish it and, hey, look, you're the new the belle of the ball, so to speak. I look back on, I've been writing most of my life, and the stuff that I wrote, 30 years ago is garbage. But as those years go by, it gets better and better, and to the point where you say, you know what, it's time to seriously consider publishing. And thankfully, Fresh Ink Group was there for me, and we got that done. So, you got to put in the work.
Absolutely. You kind of have to write the garbage so that you can write the good, the good writing. So you can write the good stuff.
And you have to be open to learning every step of the way.
Exactly.
Reading those how-to articles, those little blog pieces on point of view or show, don't tell and all that. You learn from that stuff, and it makes you better. Every page that you write is just a little better.
Yeah, never come into the situation with I know everything. You can't teach me anything, because then, you're unteachable. So.
Well, our guest today has been D. Ike Horst, and we really appreciate you coming on, David.
Book, David, thank you for spending your Wednesday evening with us.
Death the Pharmacist.
Oh, yeah.
It's available on Amazon right now. Get out there and make sure you leave those 5-star reviews after you enjoy it.
Yeah. And I will be once I get to that point on my to be read list. I'll drop a review. So. Yeah. Always.
So next week we're doing our March 23rd crossover episode with Rob and Joan Carter, who are authors, and they have their own video podcast. I'm going to be the guest on that at the hour before this show. And as soon as we click off that, they're going to come over and be the guest on our podcast. So we're just going to be crossing over like crazy next week, March 23rd. And then the week after that is
Dee Wallace Peach. Dee Wallace Peach. She will be in here on March the 30th. She's a fantastic author, and should be a good time getting her take on the writing. Craft.
I'm really looking forward to her. I've been following her for about 10 years and have never actually talked to her, so this will be a treat for me. And then after that, the day after that broadcast is when I'm going to have some major surgery. So the show that we do on April 6th, we're probably going to do a pre-recorded something or an encore or something. We're not quite sure. But then the week after that, April 13th, Andrea Wingler, who is the author of the How to Start a Food Truck Business in Florida. And then the week after that, the 20th, Kenneth Lindquist, who's putting out a pair of driving books for driving instructors and for parents who want to help young people learn how to be better drivers. So we got some exciting podcasts coming up. We're looking forward to those.
Yeah, I see we have a caller on the line. You want to take one last caller?
We might as well.
All righty. Oh, there we go. Hold on here. I thought the caller kind of dropped. Hello, caller. You're on the air. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Thank you. My name is Leslie, and I'm calling from Missouri. And
well, welcome to the
my
show.
Question is thank you.
Hi, Leslie.
My question is for David. I read the book, so I'm wondering where these characters came from. Death, the doctor, Robinette. Where did these come from?
Okay, Leslie. Thanks for joining us. And I'm excited to talk about my characters. So I would say those are my three characters, the doctor, Death the pharmacist, and Robinette. Death the pharmacist, we kind of went over him, but he's an omnipresent pharmacist who dispenses life to all mortals, and when when mortals are when they don't have refills on their prescription, he takes them in the back and very methodically deals with them. He has no real conception of what the human experience is. And Death the Pharmacist, the story, is about his exposure to the human experience. That's where Robinette comes in. She represents what I've deemed the ideal steward for humanity. She is altruistic, doesn't take life too seriously. She's thoughtful, patient. She's everything that Death is not. And her ties to, greater powers are a mystery until the final pages. But she takes Death through the different phases of her life and really exposes the human experience to him. Now, as it regards the doctor, she's kind of a foil to Death. He's the pharmacist, she's the doctor, and she's omniscient, so she knows everything that's going to happen. She doesn't make decisions like you or I would on a circumstantial basis because she's not mortal and she knows everything that's going to happen. She's settled on one chain of decisions and actions, a golden path, if you will, and any deviation from the path is ill-suited to her goals. So she no longer has free will in the sense of having many choices. She has two choices, the ideal path and the other. So it is her decision that really kicks off the story when she tells Death, go quell X amount of people. And that's when Robinette comes and takes him through her life.
Interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
It was very interesting that the differences between Death and like I'm going to say the sweet Robinette compared to Death who doesn't have feeling at all. So it was very interesting to me, those two, the combination of those two.
Yeah. Well, I smell another 5-star review going on Amazon and Goodreads.
There we go.
There we go.
Thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, thanks for calling in, Leslie.
Thanks, Leslie.
Bye-bye.
So again, D. Ike Horst is the author. The book is Death the Pharmacist. It's a Slipstream novel. We highly recommend it. Get out there and discover another great writer. Thanks for being on the show, David.
Thanks, David.
All right, thank you so much, guys.
Thanks everybody who called in, and thanks everybody who was on Twitter tonight.
We're going to close with 2 commercials before our closing again, and we'll see everybody next week.
See you next week.
Now, from popular Christian romance author Jeannie Sharp, A Chance to Choose. The life of a baker had been his dream since college. But a deep void surfaces every morning when Ben looks at himself in the mirror. Why at 29 has he not been able to find the woman of his dreams? His boss, and owner of Camden Bake Shop, Chloe, keeps pestering him about dating. Then, an old fling mails him a plane ticket to London, except turmoil draws him back home to Virginia. Does Ben get the chance to go to London? With 3 women suddenly interested, will Ben ever be able to choose? A Chance to Choose is Book 3 of the Second Chances series by Christian romance and children's book author Jeannie Sharp. A Chance to Choose is available worldwide in jacketed hardcover, paperback, and all ebook formats, from Kindle to Kobo to Nook and Google Play. A Chance to Choose is proudly published by Fresh Ink Group. Grab your copy of A Chance to Choose today.
A small rural community in the Lowcountry along Ocean Highway, Green Pond, South Carolina, has long lacked cultural and educational opportunities for its young people's future success. Many have gone on to serve in the highest levels of education, government, public service, elected office, business, and medicine. With so much success against the odds, surely there must be something in the water. Abigail Hugini chronicles the impact just 42 of Green Pond's children have gone on to make in the world. All full-color editions include photos from around town and local translations of down-home sayings. These inspirational stories prove that, regardless of one's background, we can all find our own path toward greatness. An excellent reference, keepsake, gift, and addition to every library. There must be something in the water. Anthology of the 4th generation, descendants of Green Pond, after the emancipation, is proudly published by Fresh Ink Group.
You've been a part of Voice of Indy, a production of Fresh Ink Group. Spread the word, support our guests, then find us at freshinkgroup.com and be sure to hashtag Fresh Ink Group.